Hi, I'm Ray Adams, Chairman of Ultra.
And I'm Ron Leach, Vice Chair of Ultra. And you're watching South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux.
Welcome to South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux. Thank you for joining us as we share information, tips, and techniques that can make our business community and your business more successful. Thank you to Stockton University for the opportunity to produce this show focusing on business in South Jersey. On today's program, we will talk with the co-founders of Ultra, Ray Adams and Ron Leach, who are both successful, currently running their own businesses after full careers serving others. Ray and Ron have come together to form Ultra, the Urban Low Altitude Transport Association. Their goal is to promote aviation and infrastructure interests of companies operating and supporting aeronautical vehicles with a focus on operational efficiency and safety. I have known Ray and Ron for a few years, and I am fortunate to have the pleasure to work with them on bringing unmanned aerial systems and unmanned aerial vehicle testing and activity to South Jersey. So let's get right down to business with today's featured guest, Ray Adams, Chairman of Ultra.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having us.
Take us back to the beginning, how you got started in aviation, and try to bring us up to today.
Sure. So my interest in aviation stems from my interest really in science. When I was younger, I really wanted to be an engineer or a computer scientist. As I went through my high school career and got to the decision point of what I was going to do with my life afterwards, I decided to join the Navy. And I actually really wanted to be a nuclear engineer, believe it or not. So I went through the process, took the test, whatever it was. When I got to the recruiter, they said there were no billets open for that position. So they offered me air traffic control, and I said to them, "What's air traffic control?" They're like, "Well, you work in a control tower, you talk to airplanes," and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. Yeah, sign me up." So did that, and that really got me hooked. I went to the Navy. They trained me as an air traffic controller. I really learned to love it, and then I got out of the military and went directly into the FAA as an air traffic controller at the New York Air Traffic Control Center in Long Island, which was one of the busiest in the country. Fell into it more deeply. Totally I spent about 31 and a half years as an air traffic controller. I retired 2 years ago. Founded Urban Low Altitude Transport Association, and we can talk about that a little more, but I really got interested in the next phase of aviation, right? We've had aviation in this country for 100 years. Through all different, we went through our early phases with the Wright brothers, and we worked our way through piston-driven aircraft and into turbine-driven aircraft, and I got to work all the biggest airliners in the world. But this new emerging field of unmanned aerial systems became interesting to me, and I wanted to know more about it, be a part of it, because it's the next phase of aviation. So that's kind of where I am now.
Yeah, that's great. So it's great that you saw that window and you were able to leverage all that experience in your career and work it into an organization and your own business, which we might talk about briefly. But with Ultra, what exactly does Ultra do? I know we did the opening, we talked a little bit about it, but can you put it in a sort of a brief, 30-second, information piece on what Ultra does?
We founded Ultra, Ron and I founded Ultra about 4 years ago, and the intent of Ultra at the beginning was to give us a platform to speak on the topic of this emerging technology and the integration of that technology into the airspace. We were finding that a lot of the approach to this new field was academic. And we come from operational backgrounds, and we didn't see enough operational input into that discussion. So we founded Ultra to be that platform to elevate us into that discussion. And what Ultra has evolved into is really a piece of the connective tissue in the industry. We're well known. We like to get out there and network, and we connect people to other people. We connect businesses to other businesses in the industry to synergize them and to help them grow and develop their companies.
It's funny, you just mentioned connective tissue, and you also used the word networking. So I don't want to jump to conclusions, but one of my final questions would be, of this segment would be, how much and what do you most enjoy? How much you're enjoying and what do you most enjoy about doing this type of work, and specifically being able to work down here in South Jersey?
Well, I mean, really getting at the technical aspects of how these aircraft are going to operate among all of the manned aircraft, the crewed aircraft in the system, is really a big deal for me. It kind of works to the science aspect of it and all the engineering pieces that I've learned over the years being an air traffic controller, and I've done a lot of work for the FAA in engineering. But really the people part of it is really a lot of fun. We enjoy getting out in the industry, learning about others' businesses and their thoughts and their dreams and their notions of how the industry is supposed to work, and then kind of saying like, wow, that sounds a lot like somebody else is doing a similar thing or maybe a complementary thing. And we get to talk to them and connect them together and be involved in that conversation and tying them together. So it's really a great place to be in the industry.
And there's nothing better than having your fingerprints, you and Ron having fingerprints on success, right? And it sounds like that's where it's going to, where it already is, but where it's going to continue to go to, correct?
Oh, absolutely. It's great to see some of our I call them partners, but really our friends in the industry. Their businesses are growing. They're getting capital infusions and becoming real parts of this ecosystem. So it's great to see.
There's so much show ahead of us, but I want you to stay close because we're going to be back in just a minute. Let's check out how you can connect with South Jersey business through social media, and then we'll be right back with more business talk featuring Ron Leach, Vice Chairman of Ultra, as we continue to learn about the people behind Ultra and the work they are doing in South Jersey. We're back with today's next featured guest, Ron Leach, Vice Chair of Ultra. Ron, thank you for being part of the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your history of aviation and how you got started.
Sure. So my dad was a aspiring private pilot when I was very young, and I got exposed to aviation probably when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Thought it was pretty cool. He eventually got out of it, and it kind of fell by the wayside. And right after high school, I entered the Navy and then did 4 years just like my partner Ray did. And when I came out, really didn't have a whole lot of direction where I wanted to go. So I became a volunteer firefighter / EMT. And one night on a job, we had a car accident where a trauma patient was going to be flown out by helicopter. The helicopter that came in was a state police helicopter. And I had no idea the state police had that capability. So a buddy of mine talked me into taking a state police test, and fast forward, as I made my way through the process, and prior to getting the conditional offer of employment, I started taking pilot lessons and took my airplane check ride 2 weeks before the academy started. I did my first 5 years on the road in South Jersey area, Troop A is what we call it. And while I was there were some openings that came up for the Aviation Bureau. Part of that requirement to get in to sit for the interview was you needed to have a helicopter license. So I had an airplane license, but not a helicopter license. So I put myself through helicopter school at a company out of Newark, Delaware, down by the university. And after 3 interview attempts, I finally got in on the 3rd try and spent the next 15 years of my career flying all phases of state police helicopter flight. Towards the end of my career, the boss asked me if I wanted to come up to the section and work on some special projects, and one of them happened to be drones and how we can incorporate those into state police operations. So that's kind of how the journey is and how I ended up where I'm at right now.
That's wild, but it's really cool how it started with a family thing, and then you kind of like took an awareness of what you might want to do and try, and it worked out really well. So at Ultra, I know you focus on advocacy and engagement.
Right.
But you also have stakeholders in the organization, people that support the organization, and then you also want to balance that with the needs of the industry as well as the regulatory environment.
Right.
So how do you two do it? How does Ultra do that?
Well, as Ray alluded to earlier, there was a voice that was missing from the conversation for these new aircraft that were coming onto the scene, that are coming onto the scene. A lot of great ideas coming down from the top, but no real input from the bottom. So Ray, being an air traffic controller, he understands the low altitude and airspace. Same thing with a helicopter pilot. So helicopters generally live in the lower altitudes where some of these newer vehicles are going to be operating. I mean, airplane guys, that's great. You can understand what the rules and regulations are, but when it comes to operational aspects, you need to understand the environment you're going to be operating in, and that's low level. It's going to be probably less than 2,000 feet when it's all said and done. So we try to promote awareness. Education's key, right? We want to make sure that operators are safe and understand what the rules are, and not just have the big idea how you're going to operate, but have the facts when you start trying to operate in the system.
It's interesting you say education. I want to follow up on that just for a second. I know that you are involved personally in a lot of training. So how do you, as part of Ultra and also part of your own business, how do you stay up on all the latest rules? I mean, it's a lot of coming down the pike. What do you do personally to stay engaged on that, your education, to be able to share that education?
Sure. So Ultra is kind of like the umbrella. It holds us all individuals together. It's a brain trust, if you will. We have a bunch of different specialties on the board. My company, Leach Strategic Partners, focuses on public safety education. So if a local fire department, OEM, police organization, whatever that might be, that has an interest in starting a drone program, they need to understand what those rules are going to be and how they're going to operate. Generally speaking, public safety, they're short-staffed. One person may wear many hats, so their program manager for unmanned aircraft may not be able to focus strictly on what the rules and regulation changes are. That's where I have the full-time ability to be able to do that, keep my eye on what's coming and what rule changes are effective, when they're going to become effective. Remote ID, it was one of the big topics. In September, it became effective. And again, this is one of the things where the industry wasn't ready for remote ID, so the FAA is pushing back the enforcement mechanism to give people a little more time to comply with it. So a lot of operators don't have the ability to focus on small things like that, but if they violate the rules of the FAA, they're going to find themselves in a little bit of problem. So, the consulting, I'm here to serve the people who, where I came from.
That's a great example, and thank you for sharing that. So real quick, because we just have time for one more question, I follow you on social media, and I watch how you post, and it looks like you're having a lot of fun. I hope that's the case. A lot of people look at that as a chore, like they have to do it, but you seem to be enjoying it. So tell me, is that the case? Do you enjoy what you do on social media? Because it seems to be something that you enjoy.
It's a blast. I never had a social media account. I'm a cop. I don't think I want my personal business out there.
Yeah.
I'm on this side of the fence now, so I want to promote my business. I've adopted a theme. One of these things I fell into. LinkedIn was my first social media account. I was talked into getting it by another retired guy that says, hey, listen, you want to spread your brand around, this is how you're going to have to do it. And LinkedIn actually has been a good vehicle for me personally. I fell into one of the marketing things that seems to work. It's a day in the field is better than in the office, and we'll probably have a segment on this as part of what we did today, and definitely including you on the information that we're putting out. But having a blast, really.
Thank you for doing that. We're going to explore that a little bit more in the next segment, so I want you to sit tight. Up next, we are putting both Ray Adams and Ron Leach of Ultra to the test with the M4 Big Money question, right here on South Jersey Business. But first, a quick look at how we can check out past episodes of the show. As you are aware, management, marketing, money, and media are the essential parts of any business. And the business of building and running, while also organizing the advancements and interests for unmanned aerial systems and vehicles, requires knowledge of all four M's. So it's time for the M4 Big Money question with today's featured guests, Ray Adams and Ron Leach of Ultra. Ray and Ron, are you ready?
Ready, Joe.
Let's go.
Then let's break it down. Ray, you could start. Talk to us about your management style and the management of Ultra.
Well, so Ultra is a nonprofit, right? So management of a nonprofit is a little different than a business, even though they both have some of the same principles. Really, management of Ultra from an organizational perspective is just managing all of your compliance with regulations and such. But really, that's the true regulatory part. But some of it comes down to managing your relationships, managing all of the internal activities that we do. Managing the budgets, obviously. So yeah, it's very similar to running a business, but just slightly different from a regulatory perspective.
And you also deal with a board of advisors, right? So it's managing those relationships that you sort of alluded to, right? You want to manage the relationships within the organization.
Exactly. So, Ultra really is an organization of people. We are 13 people strong across the trustees and then the advisory board. The advisory board has a pretty diverse cross-section of the aviation industry, of advanced air mobility specifically. If you take a look at our website, you can see those folks, and it's really a great conglomerate of personalities and business interests and knowledge, deep knowledge of all facets of the industry. So it's really a great, it's a challenge to manage all of that, but it's so valuable to have access to all that brain power.
And I would encourage people to visit your website because it is robust. There's a lot of information on there and good information about each of you too. So let's switch over to the second M, which is marketing. And we're talking about more traditional forms because we have another M to talk about some of the other wild and crazy things you guys do with your media. But let's start with marketing as far as traditional forms. What sort of traditional forms of marketing do you utilize to get the word out about Ultra?
Honestly, LinkedIn is probably our biggest platform. So with the marketing aspect, we want to post something that's relevant and people want to read about or get them hooked in to want to find out more information, whether that leads off to a different one of our advisors or is answering a question that's bubbling up in the industry we're keeping an eye on. So we really leverage the LinkedIn posting more, and that's really been a lot of fun developing that, trying to make it interesting, but yet maybe a little humor injection in there as well, and keep people coming back for more.
I've definitely witnessed the two of you work, and I know that another form you use is face-to-face networking, word of mouth. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that really has extended your brand, right? By going to places, getting to conferences, getting to public speaking opportunities. Is that something that you enjoy doing, and is also something that's been valuable to the organization?
Absolutely, yeah. So COVID kind of shut everything down, and I think that's where we really found some relevance in the industry when we started coming onto the stage, bringing some of our ideas and the way we think things needed the operational touch to it. When things finally broke open, the trade shows were open, you can go back and meet face to face with people, and that has a lot of value. We were finding ourselves walking around the show floor and it's like, hey, you're the guys from Ultra. Yeah. And we were building our networks out that way. So there's something to be said by being in person, shaking hands, talking to people one-on-one, and then the social aspect of it afterwards. So everybody's game face is on when you're on the floor. But during the social hours, that's where we really made a lot of traction and made some exchanging business cards and making some headway and trying to solve people's problems or maybe help them connect with another person who has similar interests or technologies.
That's great. People get to know you and know what you're all about, and then they do business with you, which is awesome, and the organization. So Ray, we'll flip back over to you. Money, it's mean, it's green. People don't always like to talk about it, but how important is that the way in which funding comes to Ultra to help them fulfill the mission, help you fulfill the mission?
Sure. And as you know, Ultra's a nonprofit. There's really, for as much as a nonprofit is not there for a profit motive, there's a need for money. We have to keep the lights on. We do have costs. We try to keep our costs to a minimum. We don't traditionally ask for money the way most nonprofits ask for money. We don't have a membership structure. We don't ask for people to donate to get access to our ideas and our folks. What we do is we try to provide value first. And that just comes from serving people. Ron and I have served the industry for 30 plus years each in our government roles. And the intent is to do good first. And then eventually, if people like what we're doing, we say, hey, if you're willing to help us keep the lights on, if we're doing good work, we have a sponsorship, different levels of sponsorship that you can join up to. We do offer value for that sponsorship. We try to really promote our sponsors the best we can. We believe in their value. And so we are really bad at business when it comes to nonprofit fundraising, but we would love to go out and try to get some grants or stuff like that. We've worked on that. That would be one avenue we can take to fund the organization. So yeah, we're looking into other ways of funding.
I would encourage people, if they have an interest, to go to the website because I know information's there, and so is your contact information. So great answer. It's not the easiest one to answer, but good job. So we only have about less than a minute left, but let's expand on the media piece, the fourth M. You talked about LinkedIn. What about some podcasting. I know you've done that. You've done different things. Well, we're going to be on the web for this. But what other forms of media and PR have been working for you guys?
So we have the Urban Low Altitude Transport Association Happy Hour, which was started during COVID, and it was based on an idea from another podcast where it was some people just having some beverages and talking about things. Well, kind of stole their idea and thought, hey, this is a good medium. We'll have the Ultra Happy Hour. Funny thing is, our very first one, there was a hurricane that was striking New Jersey at the time, and we were very close to pulling the plug. Congressman Frank Lobiondo was one of the guests that we had on, so the show must go on, right? Yeah. So we ended up having the very first one from inside of Ray's, what was it, your car at the time?
It was in my car, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had some other guests on there, but that was a learning experience. But that got some legs, believe it or not. People liked what we were talking about. They liked our relaxed style. It was held in the evening. What kind of beverage are you having? Is it going to be iced tea or is it going to be a bourbon? Tell us what you're having, and then we'll start talking about industry topics. And that really, I think that helped put us on the map as well. It's like we're regular guys. We work for a living, and we talk. We're not academics. We talk. At our level, you know what I mean? It's we don't intimidate people. We want to bring to the table the information and have that information exchange.
Yeah, and if you can do it in a relaxed way, it's more enjoyable and it's more entertaining too, right? So that's good. All right, well, listen, thank you guys for sharing your views on the M4. This was great. Sip tight. There you have it. Ray Adams and Ron Leach's Ultra Mix of management, marketing, money, and media. We have some more business content coming up, including another segment with today's featured guest. So stick around for more South Jersey Business with Joe Molineaux. Welcome back. It's time to turn the spotlight on an organization that has turned their spotlight on unmanned aerial systems and vehicles, specifically in New Jersey and throughout the country. This is Ultra, the Urban Low Altitude Transport Association. Their goal is to promote the aviation and infrastructure interests of companies operating and supporting aeronautical vehicles with a focus on operational efficiency and safety. It's time for the spotlight on Ultra. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for allowing us to turn the spotlight on an organization like Ultra. Let's start with the what behind Ultra. What is Ultra and what does it do, Ray?
Sure, Joe. So Ultra is a nonprofit organization that advocates for the interests of the advanced air mobility industry. So the industry being the developers of vehicles, infrastructure, supporting services that enable this future of aviation.
So that's a really simple answer to a lot of work. So the next question would be the how of the spotlight. So Ron, can you tell us how you were able to set this up and how you were able to do this, operate this?
Sure. Funny you should ask. This is how we started. Off of exit 8A of the Jersey Turnpike, after a couple of phone calls, Ray and I met and we started drafting out an idea where Ultra was going to go. How are we going to build this thing out?
So just to be clear, those were two bar napkins, not one,
Correct.
two bar napkins that you basically wrote out the plan of how you were going to do this.
Sketched out the idea how we saw this vision to play out. We don't use napkins anymore. We use regular software. And,
I would hope. Yeah, that's great though. So that's the how, and it is a lot of I've watched you work. There's a lot of undertaking. So we did the what and the how, and now we have to do the who. So who is the audience? Who are you serving? Who are you working with to make Ultra successful and the industry more successful?
Well, sure. So our audience is effectively anyone who would benefit from being educated or informed about how this industry is evolving, the important benefits that it's bringing and will bring to aviation, to the communities, to the economic development of an area. And that could include government entities, it could include other businesses. It's really media. Anytime we can talk about the value that this industry is going to bring in the future and the economic benefits that come along with it, that's our audience.
You have to look in the mirror a little bit philosophically and think why you do what you do. So if you could quickly tell me, Ron, why you do this work.
It's basically a passion. Sharing information for people who want to get into the industry and being able to answer some questions and guide them through. And even the training aspect of it, teaching people how this industry will benefit, right? We're on the next phase of aviation, and it's just incredibly a part of that.
That's awesome. What about you, Ray? Why do you get up every day and do this work?
It's pretty similar to Ron. It really has become, it's become my life in general. I mean, I spent 32 plus years in aviation before this, and now this couple of years with Ultra has really let me build upon that. So I get out of bed every day to do something important. And I think this is really important for the next 100 years.
All right, who wants to take this one? What does the future hold for Ultra?
Sky's the limit.
That's a great answer. That might be one of my favorite answers all time on the Spotlight. All right, well, listen, I want to thank you both for allowing us to turn the spotlight on Ultra. Thank you for taking the time to share everything you're doing to move the industry and the organization forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure.
That was today's Spotlight, providing a clear view of what Ultra, the Urban Low Altitude Transport Association, is all about. The team here at South Jersey Business appreciates all of you who watch the show. From time to time, we receive questions from our viewers, and we always do our best to respond to your inquiries. So it's time for Q&A. And here's today's question. Dear South Jersey Business, how can I best determine a good location for my new retail store? That's a good question, and one that people ask me quite a bit. There's an old saying that goes, location, location, location. So let me give you 3 quick tips to assist you in making a good decision. Number 1, consider what you are selling. A product or service that people may not know they want or need could benefit from a high traffic location, unlike a product or service that people will seek out even if it's off the beaten path. Number 2, consider who you are selling to. If you really have a good idea of who your target market or customer is, try your best to locate near the largest group of customers or on a route they travel frequently. Finally, number 3, consider your budget. The more attractive the location, the more it may cost you. And that goes for whether you are buying a building or even renting. Make sure your estimated sales numbers can cover the cost of your location as well as earn enough to pay your bills and yourself. Projections are key to future success. I hope that helps answer your question. And good luck on your search for an ideal location. We'll be right back. Well, that's the show. We had a solid business discussion with the co-founders of Ultra, Ray Adams and Ron Leach. Once again, thank you to Stockton University and everyone that makes this program possible. Let's do it again next time. And until then, let's get growing, South Jersey. Thanks for watching.